Hey, what it do? Welcome to another new episode of Locked On NBA. On today's show, the Detroit Pistons, man, they just continue to find themselves on the wrong side of history. Tonight, they lost to the Celtics 128-122 in overtime to extend their losing streak out to 28 games, tying the NBA record. Will the Pistons head into 2024 with that streak ongoing? Plus, Thursday's slate saw a few impressive performances that we'll dive into, from Tyrese Haliburton to Anthony Edwards dropping the season high to Nikola Jokic and a perfect triple-double. All that and more coming up on today's episode of Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On NBA, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Camille Davis, joined by Adam Mares, and we appreciate you tuning in and thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can also catch us on YouTube as well. And today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code all lowercase LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. We'll talk a bit more about Prize Picks later on in the show, but first, we have to talk about those Detroit Pistons. It was a battle of streaks tonight in Boston. The Pistons came into Boston having lost 27 straight games, which was the NBA single season record. The Celtics were undefeated at home this season, came into the game with a 21 straight home winning streak, which extends back to last season. They were 14-0 at home prior to this game. And after this one, they are now 15-0 at home. The Pistons lost to the Celtics 128-122 in overtime. The Pistons have now tied the NBA record for the longest losing streak period, 28 straight games. The Philadelphia 76ers, trust the process 76ers, first had that streak of 28 games over 2 seasons. So, Adam, looking at this game for the Pistons, I know myself, I was cheering for the Pistons. I'm not even a Pistons fan, but at this point, just really wanted them to finally end this streak, but wasn't the night.
It wasn't the night, and it felt like the night of all nights. This is the one because you're going up against this Boston team. You just raised the stakes. You just talked about it there. Unstoppable object and a very movable – wait, was it unstoppable force but a very movable object in the Detroit Pistons? And for partial – the first part of this game, it looked like it was going to be the special night. I don't know how you felt, Camille. When they built a 20-point lead, I almost cringed because it was like, oh, no. That's almost the hardest spot to be. You almost want to sneak up on it, if you're an underdog like that, and then at the end you make your run, but they made their run early, and the whole game just felt like a slow bleed. You kind of saw it. They're up 20. Okay, now they're up 15. Okay, now they're up 12. Now they're up 8, and you're just watching going, oh man, can that clock run out? And unfortunately, it did not. But I tip my hat, man. I just thought the Pistons through this rough experience, as rough of an experience as you can go through in the NBA. I feel like they have not shut down, but have kind of got more resolute, more tough, and are trying so hard to get out of this. And I think that's why you were rooting for them. And that's why everybody watching this game was sort of pulling for the Pistons deep in their gut.
Truly. And this game was so interesting as well, because coming into the game, we know the Celtics shoot a lot of threes and they make a lot of threes. Top in the NBA. Meanwhile, the Pistons are the complete opposite of that. They do not take a lot of threes. That's been a big problem with the Pistons so far this season. The spacing and the floor, things are all shrunken up for Cade. He can't even operate. And the script was flipped tonight, where the Pistons came out shooting a bunch of threes, and the Celtics
still got them up, but Pistons 43. I'm just looking at that 43 3-point attempts. That's a lot.
That's a lot for Detroit. Like, they don't normally do that, and they made more tonight than did the Celtics. And looking at the numbers, you're like, okay, that's interesting. Then you're like, okay, Detroit won the second chance points. They were out here rebounding the ball, and you're like, well, what didn't they do well? And it's like they fouled too much. Like, just at the end, they just couldn't make enough plays.
They couldn't make enough plays, and I mean, let's be honest, the margin for error is enormous in this game. When you're talking about the Celtics having, their complement of players outside of Jaylen Brown tonight, they still have Tatum, they have Horford, they have Porzingis, and so the margin of error is huge. I also look at the turnovers, which is obviously a sign of a young team, 18 turnovers in this game. You don't win a lot of games when you turn it over more than, say, 14 times or so. So you do a couple things that shoot yourself in the foot. But like I said, to me, the sense was more, this was a Pistons team that was playing this as if this was their championship. This was the one. Are we going to go in the record books as the team to tie this record and now maybe even break the record? And you could tell they did not want to be that, but it was just a slow bleed out. But I will say, Cade Cunningham tonight, one of his best games as a pro, 31 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks. And he was a +4 in 43 minutes. I thought he left it all on the court tonight. And to me, honestly, what I'll remember about this game more than anything probably was Cade willing his team in a big, big moment.
Yeah, same. And Cade's been hooping recently. Like, he's had 2 40-point games. And in this game, I felt like he actually to get his teammates involved a lot. We had a really good Jay Ivey game tonight as well, which we haven't said super often so far this season. Jay Ivey had 22 and 10 rebounds tonight. So he was a crucial part for them until he fouled out during overtime as well. But I'm going to remember the fight and also hearing what's next for the Pistons at this point. So what's interesting is that they have the Raptors next. They play the Raptors on Saturday.
That's winnable. That's a winnable game.
Especially because the Raptors will be on the second night of a back-to-back after playing the Celtics. Right. So I don't know, Adam. I think that they come out of 2023 with a win. What do you think?
I think they're going to get it. And here's the thing. Tonight was to tie the record. That game will be to break the record, and you don't want to break the record. It's bad enough tying, but there is something to being the only team to have done a thing that you don't want to do. So for me, the spirit that they played with tonight, the effort, and I know this is weird to say, they're playing with a little bit of confidence, I feel, just, off of this effort of like, hey, we're not this bad. We actually have something there. So I'm with you. Let's double down on it. They get a win against Toronto this weekend.
Let's go. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. For all the Pistons fans, we're hoping for it. We're rooting for it. We'll absolutely be watching and tuning in. And I mentioned at the top, want to dig into some individual performances. But before we do that, I do want to take a little look around the league at some of the other games that took place during this Thursday night slate. We had the Jazz and the Pelicans, which was a pretty good game there. The Pelicans defeated the Jazz 112-105. Brandon Ingram, Trey Murphy III, they hit some clutch baskets there at the end to hold off the Jazz. And I did see as well, tonight was the third time that Zion Williamson, Brandon Ingram, and CJ McCollum have all scored at least 20 points in the same game.
The big three. That's big time. I mean, this New Orleans Pelicans team, we talk about them a lot on this show, but they are the most two-faced team in the NBA. This is not exactly a great win, eking out a win against this terrible Utah Jazz team in New Orleans. But nonetheless, they got it done, and that's a cool stat. All three of them with 20 points.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We also had the Golden State Warriors against the Miami Heat. The Heat came into Golden State short-staffed. Yet and still, Tyler Hero led the way for the Miami Heat, and they defeated the Golden State Warriors 114-102. A game that you can say is uncharacteristic of Steph Curry this evening as well. Steph Curry was 3 of 15 from the field for 13 points, and you don't see that too often. A -26 on the night.
It reminds you of the last time the Miami Heat played against the 76ers. Tyrese Maxey, similar stat line. He couldn't make a shot. I mean, this is what the Miami Heat do. They key in on what you're best at. They take that away. For the Golden State Warriors, that's, of course, Steph Curry. But more to the point, the Warriors lose Draymond Green. We think their season's over. They win 5 in a row. And you think, okay, including beating Boston, which was a really nice win. And you think, okay, they have some fight. They have some pride. Well, now they dropped 2 in a row to Denver and to Miami, and the margins are so thin for them. And their schedule, by the way, Dallas, Orlando, Denver, 3 very good playoff teams. That's going to be a tough stretch. And kind of make or break for the Warriors here as they wait out this Draymond suspension.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We also had the Spurs against the Trailblazers this evening. The Spurs defeated the Trailblazers 118-105. Victor Wembanyama, he had 30 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 7 blocks. Became the first teenager to record a 35, 5, and 5 stat line in NBA history.
That's an impressive stat line. One of many that he has had this year already. His numbers are pretty silly. Like, you watch some of your games and you go, okay, he was pretty good tonight. Let's look at his stat line. And it reads something like that: 7 blocks, 6 assists, 6 rebounds, 30 points. And you're like, oh, maybe it was a little bit better than I thought it was. But yeah, good win for the Spurs, who it's their 5th win on the season. So even though it was against the lowly Blazers, every win for them is special.
That's a fact. That's a fact. And one thing about Victor that's interesting to me, whenever I'm watching those games, I always feel like he could still be more involved offensively than what he is. Like, it reminds me a bit of like rookie LeBron when he gets to Cleveland and they're like, no, we got it. Like, don't worry. You're going to fit into what we're doing. It's like, no, you need to fit into what this rookie has going on. So that's one thing I think about a lot when I watch the Spurs as well. And speaking of LeBron, got to talk about the Lakers and the Hornets really quick as well. The Lakers defeated the Hornets 133-112. LeBron had 17 points and 11 assists, was able to sit the entire fourth quarter along with Anthony Davis, who had 26 points and 8 rebounds in their win against the Hornets.
Get right game after the Christmas one. They have well publicized since the in-season tournament. They go on that losing streak. They lose 5 of 6. They've stabilized a little bit now with a pair of wins sandwiched around that Boston loss. So a stabilizing win. What better way to stabilize than hosting the Charlotte Hornets?
That'll do it for you. That'll do it for you. And with as impressive as some of those performances were, there are some individual performances that happened tonight that we have to highlight more in depth. And we're going to do that right after this. Prize Picks is the largest daily fantasy sports platform in North America. And honestly, it's no wonder why that is. It's the easiest and most exciting way to play DFS because it's just you against the numbers. You don't have to worry about battling thousands of other players, which normally includes some pros and some sharks, because with Prize Picks, all you're doing is picking more than or less than on 2 to 6 different players' stat projections, and then you just watch the winnings roll in. Now, you all might not be familiar with me, but let me tell you something about myself. I'm about my coins, okay? So when I win anything, I want my money as quickly as I can get it. I'm patient about a lot, but not about my ends. And that's another reason why I love Prize Picks, because they have super quick withdrawals. Quick withdrawals plus easy gameplay, plus an enormous selection of players and stat types all adds up to make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. So go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, head over to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNBA and use the code LockedOnNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Time is valuable, and we truly appreciate you for tuning in to Locked On NBA. If you enjoy what we do here on Locked On NBA, I got to put you up on something else that you might enjoy as well, because Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you with 24/7 coverage of the top sports stories of the day. And it's all brought to you by the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows that cover every single league. So go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Now, as mentioned, we got to talk about some individual performances that they were just nuts tonight. Pacers and the Bulls. So the Pacers defeated Chicago Bulls tonight, and Tyrese Haliburton came through with a 21-point, 20-assist double-double. That is the first 20-assist, 0 turnover game in the league since Chris Paul did so in 2016. That's like, I don't know. Tyrese is coming on like he's on one right now. It's his 5th straight double-double, and he leads the NBA with assist point double-doubles at the moment. The man is just on fire.
You're bringing the stats today. I like it. That's an incredible one. 2016. I got another one for you. This is the 5th game this season where Tyrese Haliburton has had 0 turnovers. His assists in those games, 17, 15, 15, 13. And then, of course, tonight with 20. So it's not like he's getting 0 turnovers, 5 assists, or 8 assists or whatever. The ball is in his hands, and he's throwing dimes all game long. The guy's so fun to watch. Hopefully this is the start. I mean, you look at the starters tonight. They dominated these minutes. This was a down game for the Chicago Bulls, who have been a good story over the last month or so. But you look at this and you just go, okay, the starters finally get a little bit of a rhythm going. And maybe that is the sign of breaking out of a slump, a little post-IST slump for this Pacers team. But hat tip to Haliburton, man. What a crazy stat line.
Yeah, Truly, truly. And Tyrese Haliburton is somebody whose game I really enjoy watching because he is difficult to defend because of his court vision, but because of the way that he sees the floor. Like, first of all, he's a 3-point threat in itself. So the moment he brings that ball across half court, you got to respect what he can do. And the vision that he also has there, like when you think that you have him, like if he drives and he's looking to kick, more times than not, he's going to get the ball into the hands of the right person. And that was the case again this evening. To have 20 assists in the game, that means your teammates were doing their job. And that was the case for sure with the Pacers tonight. And listen, we brought out a few different stats. Like, he's the 5th player to have 20 or more assists without a turnover in a game. The other 4 players.
Let me hear him.
Kevin Porter did so in 1978.
Okay.
John Lucas did it in 1983.
We're going way back.
Way back, you got to with this one. Ricky Green did it in 1984.
Okay.
And then, as mentioned, Chris Paul did it in 2016. Man. So
wow.
There was a gap in itself between these types of games. And when you're in the likes of you and Chris Paul are the only 2 to have done it since the 80s. Like, that's some elite company.
Since 1984, we're talking 40 years.
Yes.
That's impressive, man. That's really impressive. I did not know that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's head over to the West Coast, some of these Western Conference games. I know that you were covering the Nuggets, and your boy, Nikola Jokic, that MVP case just continues to be made with what he is doing. The Nuggets defeat the Grizzlies 142-105. Big blowout here in Denver. And Nikola Jokic, a perfect triple-double. Perfect from the field, perfect from the free throw line. Nikola Jokic finished the game with, 26 points, 14 rebounds, and 10 assists. And correct me if I'm wrong, he did not play in the 4th quarter.
He did not. He picked up that triple-double in the 3rd and then went to the bench with a 30-point lead. But, I mean, what's cool about this is actually the 3rd time Jokic has had a triple-double with 100% shooting from the field. His first one came against the Phoenix Suns, I think, in 2019. It was little known fact. It was DeAndre Ayton's 2nd ever game. You know, he was starting for the Phoenix Suns, and in his 2nd game, Jokic put up a 35-point triple-double on 11-11 shooting. Welcome to the league, rookie. He did it again earlier this year against the Lakers in January, and then, of course, he did it just tonight. So that's 3 times. He ties Wilt Chamberlain as the only player in NBA history to have a triple-double without missing a shot. And as you mentioned, he perfect from the foul line, 3 of 3. Perfect from the 3-point line, 1 of 1, and then of course 10 of 10 from the field from 2. So, a lot of guys, when you get the weak teams, some guys will go for 50. You know, they'll come in. It's like, all right, this is a night to kind of get the shots up. Yoke pads the stats by not missing shots. That's his stat padding.
And is there any better stat padding than that to say, like, I'm just not going to miss. Like, I'm just going to get this ball in the hoop every single time that I put it up. Like, that is amazing in and of itself. Like, I covered the Bucks, Locked On Bucks, been watching Giannis do some crazy things over the years. And I just got to ask you this from watching Jokic day in and day out. Do you ever get like, not, I won't say sick of, but does it ever cease to amaze you what he's able to do on the court?
It's one of those things, man, where it's just so fun every night because it feels like you're unwrapping a present. Where you're like, I don't know, let's see what crazy thing he's going to do tonight. Oh, perfect triple-double. Yeah, that'll do. I'll take it.
I had to ask because I feel like you're just watching. Like, I don't even have words to describe exactly what it is that I'm seeing anymore because the man is just doing things that haven't been done since Wilt Chamberlain. Whenever you're in that company, you've done something quite impressive. So had to shout out Jokic for that performance. And then we got to go to the Mavericks and the Timberwolves. Now, the Dallas Mavericks were without Luka Doncic. They were without Kyrie Irving. Yeah. They also were without Maxi Kleber. But the Timberwolves avoided back-to-back losses for the first time this season, and they beat the Mavericks on Thursday in Minneapolis, 118-110. Anthony Edwards continuing his ascent as a superstar in the league, finished with a season high 44 points tonight on 12 of 23 shooting, 6 of 11 from 3. He was 14 of 18 from the free throw line.
That's a lot of free throws, but it's a lot of points as well. 44 points. Pretty dominant performance from him. And I love the point you mentioned here. Minnesota, they've just been so consistently good all year. had a little bit of a rocky patch here with a couple losses, but making sure not to string those together. My only other note from this game, and it's something to keep an eye on. Yes, there's no Luka, so let's not read too much into this.
Right.
But if you look at Derek Lively, he's been great this year. My biggest concern is how does he do against other big type players? Almost all of his worst games this season have come against the teams with the most size, the Lakers, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Denver Nuggets, New Orleans Pelicans. Teams that have size inside seem to bother him and bother the Dallas Mavericks. So no Luka tonight, so don't read too much into it, but just something to kind of chalk up as he has a 1-for-4, 2-point, -16 night in 15 minutes.
Yeah, and only 15 minutes. Meanwhile, Dwight Powell played 30 minutes tonight. So goes on to show you something to keep an eye on about the size, like you mentioned with the team. And it was quite a night of hoops. But it's Friday, and it's time to kick into the weekend. So I want to talk to you, Adam, about some of the most unbreakable records in the NBA, because you know why? It's about that time we count down to the weekend. We're going to do that next. There are only 2 weeks left in the NFL regular season, and the stakes for these games are high. Teams are fighting for their playoff lives, so there's no shortage of big games to be had. And FanDuel is filling those big game vibes with some big time offers. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 money line bet. Again, $150 if your team wins. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, trust me when I tell you, there is no better time to get in on the action than now. Plus, the app is super easy to use, and there's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over and unders, and more than that. So make sure you visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get in on the action. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. All right. Now, I might be new here, but I am familiar with your game. And I understand that it's Friday. So it's time to count down to the weekend. So, Adam, what do you have for us?
Well, the Detroit Pistons are ready to break a record that we thought maybe wouldn't happen. We have the win streak, 33 wins. Will that ever be broken? 28 losses, it almost feels harder than the win streak in a lot of ways, just because it's so difficult to lose that many times. But here we are on the precipice of a new record. So I thought I would highlight 5 other records that I think will not be broken, that are not some of the main ones that you always hear people talk about. These are a little bit off the radar, relatively speaking. And I'll start with the one that's maybe the most obvious. In the 5 spot, everybody talks about Wilt Chamberlain, averaged 50 for a season, has 100-point single in a single game. But that season, the 61-62 season, he averaged 48 and a half minutes. No, this will. I'll be comfortable saying that, with load management, with everything, that will not be broken. No player is going to play every second, every minute of every single game, including overtime, so that you actually average more than 48 minutes a game, 48 and a half.
Yeah, not only averaging more minutes than what you can, but you don't see any player, like even with the new player participation rules that they have in place, trying to encourage players to play, I don't think you're going to see that one broken. And for this to be number 5, like this list, I'm intrigued. It's
just because it's the most obvious. That's why I put it number 5. Number 4, we always talk about point records, and LeBron obviously extending that. But the assist record is the crazy one. John Stockton, all-time leader in assists at 15,806. Number 2 is Mark Jackson, 3,500 behind him. That is insane. That is 25% fewer assists, and he's number 2 all-time. John Stockton is like almost double the assists of every player who's ever come through the NBA except for like 6. It's insane how many assists he has.
And it's insane as well when you think about the time period where he played, and assists were given out a lot less generously during that time as well. Like if John Stockton played today, he'd have quite a few more assists on that tally as well.
Nothing better than the outlet pass, 4 dribbles, crossover, step back, jumper, assist. Yep, got him. Got him with it. All right, here's where it gets real though. We will not see a player shorter than 5'3", a la Muggsy Bogues. You think about it, when I saw this, I was thinking okay, will we ever see a 5'2" player play in the NBA? Absolutely impossible. You have players today that are 5'9", and you think of them and you go, that guy is tiny.
Like too little.
5'2", we're not going to see that. That's never coming back into the NBA.
No, but hearing the name Muggsy always just gives me just the most beautiful 90s flashbacks of thinking about those Charlotte Hornets teams. But that's a different type of hooper right there, to be 5'3" in the NBA.
And he was good. That's the other thing about it. It's not like this was some scrub. He was a great player.
No, he had buckets,
5'3". So we're not going to see a guy break that record. That one's going to stay there. Number 2. And it extended tonight, believe it or not. LeBron James' streak of scoring in double figures. It is now at 1,180 games. It spans all the way back to 2007. If LeBron is in the roster and active, he is scoring 10 points. Just pencil it in. That's an insane record.
There are a lot of players who've never even played that many games in the NBA. Right. And LeBron has scored double digits in all of them. Like, that's insane.
Worst game, worst off night. No ankle rolled in the first half where you missed the game and you're not able to play. Somehow this dude has been doing this since 2007.
Life was different in 2007. That's how long ago.
Yeah. Now, this last one is actually even crazier and harder for me to fathom, but we're in the era of load management. This is number 1 on my list. We're in the era of load management. Guys take nights off. We saw Mikal Bridges the other day extend his consecutive game streak because he played only 10 minutes and then comes out the game and doesn't play again. I think it should not count. We should put an asterisk now on his consecutive games played. But you know who doesn't have an asterisk?
Who?
AC Green, 1,192 consecutive games played. That's 16 seasons without missing a game. And that spans from 1986 to 2001. 3 decades. No missed games.
Insane. That's an Iron Man for real. Like you mentioned, with all the player participants, like, there are rules in the game now to try to encourage guys to play more games, to play every game for 16 straight seasons.
That's insane.
These longevity award records are the ones for real, where it's like you have to have a lot of good luck mixed in with skill to try to break those.
I'd love to see just that. I would love games played to be a stat that players chase. The way they chase points and triple doubles and all these different records. It'd be cool just to say, I'm gunning for AC Green's record. I'm trying to play every game of my career from start to finish. I think that would be cool.
Well, I mean, I did hear at the beginning of this season, Anthony Davis said that he wanted to play all 82. And I was like, you know what? Hey, that's a good goal to set. It's already not there, but
but you tried.
It was a good goal to set. Hey, appreciate everybody for tuning in. We're going to wrap up here. So thank you for making Locked On NBA your first listen every single day. Want to remind you to head over to Locked On Sports today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Locked On Sports today is going to bring you guys all the news you need. 24/7 coverage, all the top stories with all the local experts of Locked On. So, hey, why not go and check that out after we close up here? So for Adam and myself, we're going to catch you later. Have a good one.